In summer 2013, a very surprising thing happened. The IMF, the most important institution in this game, published an evaluation saying that the assumptions in the first program for Greece were too optimistic and that the whole first round of credits given only served to repay private creditors and substitute them with official ones, exactly what you said now, meaning the taxpayers of the Eurozone. Had this confession led to any change in the policy of the creditor countries or the Troika?
None whatsoever. But you have to look at it from the perspective of the IMF. The IMF is not European only. It has to answer to donors that are of increasing importance from Malaysia and Indonesia and so on, and Latin America. Countries that, some of them, if you look at Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil,
they have their own financial crisis experience.
Okay, and they also knew what it meant to extend and pretend their loans at the expense of their social fabric. The IMF was always reluctant to get into bed with the ECB in Berlin and Brussels in the crisis countries of the Eurozone. However, the IMF, you may recall, by 2007 had become globally irrelevant. Because of its bad track record, the rest of the world was trying to stay away from the IMF. In South Korea to this day, they hear the acronym IMF and they sort of, it's like hearing the word Antichrist. Right? So the IMF had a serious legitimacy problem. It needed institutionally to revive itself. Entering the Eurozone, not being in the third world anymore, but actually participating in a rescue package of the Eurozone was institutionally too important for the IMF to ignore. Therefore, they set aside their macroeconomic worries about the nature of the bailout program for Greece, for Ireland, for Portugal and so on, and they entered the fray in order to become relevant again. But they always knew that these policies, which were driven by Berlin, 100%, were never going to work. The IMF were hopeful that they would be able to influence the Europeans, the lender, creditor countries, within a year. Go along, with the flow and steadily influence in the direction of rationality our European policies.
Yes.
By 2012, it was clear to them that that was not happening. So it was actually in the fall of 2012 that Ms. Christine Lagarde took the Greek finance minister aside. She has told us so, and he has not denied it, and offered him an amazing deal. Let us walk into the Eurogroup meeting together and demand a very large, almost 2/3 haircut for the Greek public debt. And what was the answer that he got? Mr. Schäuble would not like that. He said to me, no way, Yanis. So you can see that the IMF was becoming increasingly jittery. And I think that from 2013, with this mea culpa, this admission of error, the IMF has pulled out of the so-called rescue packages. And you can see that already...
But at the same time, the executives of the IMF are very rigidly executing the conditionality of the second MOU in Greece and all the others. They are still in the game and actively. Mr. Thompson is still a very important player in this country.
You're quite right. I have no doubt that Mr. Thompson understands fully that the program that he's executing is an irredeemable failure. But he's a functionary. He has accepted a particular job. If he weren't doing what he's doing now, right, it would become quite clear that the ECB, the European Commission strategy here in Greece has unraveled. That is not going to go down very well in Berlin. I think that the IMF institutionally, what it does, it's hedging its bets. So the leadership of the IMF is declaring defeat and withdrawal, or the intention to withdraw, but the lower echelons are still participating until at some point they hope they'll just go home and leave it to the Europeans. You can already see that the next bailout of Greece, for instance, and it is coming, is not going to take the form of a troika-administered sum of money that comes from the European taxpayers. It is going to come from the private sector with the encouragement and threats of the ECB, and the troika visits will be substituted by European Commission visits or visits of the Greek government to the European Commission. They will reformulate this so as to allow the IMF quietly to slip away.
The episode you mentioned when Mrs. Lagarde made this proposal to Mr. Stornaras, has this been published?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't notice
Yes.
this.
It is out in the open. Mr. Stornaras has actually defended his position in Parliament.